Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. We're going to be broadcasting here in just a second. And thank you for joining the Johnny Cleveland podcast. Good to see everybody. Good evening to the Friday edition of the Johnny Cleveland podcast. Hello, everybody. It's a fun Favorites Friday. Woohoo! I don't know about the Indians tonight. They're in a kind of a battle tonight with the Pirates. I got the game on here, and right now the Tribe is down 2-1. Looks like they're going to the seventh inning, it looks like. But they are coming off of a wonderful sweep of the Chicago White Sox. They swept them in 4 games and really looked really good. Pitching was excellent again. Had some of those dramatic wins going back to Jose Ramirez's 3-run homer to win it the first night or the second night of the series. Justin Luplow got the other home run. Then the next night in the ninth, and then last night they were able to get another win. So they swept the White Sox, and potentially they could play the White Sox again in the playoffs. Right now, the Indians are 7th. And they could go jump all the way up to second if they were to win this game tonight. Again, they're down 2-1 right now in the top of the 7th. If you're watching the game, you come over to the podcast. Thank you for watching us on Facebook Live and on Twitter or on YouTube as well, on my YouTube channel, the Johnny Cleveland Podcast channel. But we're going to watch the game here, and if you want to tune back, I can keep you posted. Well, I watched the game as well. But right now, the Indians are down 2-1. Cookie Carrasco is pitching, and he gave up a 2-run homer earlier in the game, so that's why we're down 2-1. So good to have you here watching or listening on the podcast. If you are listening on the podcast, we're going to do Friday favorites, and the introduction tonight on the audio version might give away what my Friday favorite topic is tonight. We're going to discuss that in a little bit later. It has to do with the Browns quarterbacks, and I look forward to finishing the show with that. Actually, I have a story that we're going to finish with that has to do with what I did this afternoon. Again, my son Grant and I are avid golfers, and after my work day here, Grant and I went out and went over to a local golf course that we go to quite a bit, and had a nice time out there. It's just great to get out here in Ohio this time of year. It's been beautiful here in the Buckeye State. Just a couple of weeks of just beautiful weather. We haven't had any rain. Beautifully sunny skies, no wind. I don't miss the wind. I've said this before on the podcast. Lived in Kansas for 26 years. Love those years, but I do not miss the wind. If any of you ever travel out west, any of those friends or family that are watching from Kansas can probably also know what I'm talking about with the wind. There's a lot of bad hair days. So anyhow, Grant and I went out golfing this afternoon, had a fun time doing that. And I actually have a golf story that includes Grant. I've shared with my family and some friends, but it's a pretty funny story. So I thought I would finish with that this evening. But so the Indians are, like I said, they've done pretty well this past week. Right now they're in second or third place in their own league. In the division standings, or in the league standings for the playoffs, they are still positioned at number 7, so they could play any of these teams like the White Sox potentially again. They could play the Tampa Bay Devil Rays or Rays. They could even play the Oakland Athletics. So we'll see what happens over the next 3 nights. Things will be decided, and then from there, Cleveland could potentially host a best of 3 wild card playoff series. And then after that, the games will move to Texas. They're going to have kind of a miniature bubble down there, and we'll see how that goes. The Indians have great pitching. Shane Bieber Zach Plesac did not have the greatest of outings the other night, but he's been outstanding throughout the season, other than his little dip in kind of his mental state and leaving the team when they were being quarantined there in Chicago. So look forward to having him pitch a game in the playoffs as well. Cookie Carrasco right now is pitching. Right now, actually, the Indians have a runner on first if you're following the game, with one out in the seventh. So the Indians are doing well. Looking forward to seeing what happens. I mentioned this on the previous podcast with Jose Ramirez. Ramirez has just been outstanding. He's really just been the driving force of the team. I've also talked about players like Frankie Lindor. Frankie, again, it's just been up and down. I know in one podcast we talked quite a bit about kind of his attitude, and it didn't seem like he was really all in at certain times. And even tonight, little blunders, just a lot of little mistakes tonight earlier in the game. There was a ball hit sharply to first base. He was running from first to second, and instead of sliding, he just kind of ran over the base, could not hold his momentum, carried him off the bag, and then he was called out. Just not smart baseball. And for whatever reason, it just doesn't seem to me that Frankie Lindor is completely focused. I always talk to my son Grant Mann about staying focused with things that he does with his schoolwork and other like things when he goes to bowl, tries to get a strike. I just want to tell these players, you got to stay focused. So we'll see how that goes for the Indians. I do think that their offensive set right now is a concern going into the playoffs. I think that their pitching is the strong point, and if the Indians can get some, good hits and get 4 or 5 runs a game, I think they're going to put themselves in great shape throughout the playoffs. But if they're getting good pitching and can't get a run across, they will be out of the playoff picture very quickly. All right. Well, other news today in the college game. We know that the Big Ten is coming back. We know that the Buckeyes and those other teams will be starting play back in late October. I think October 24th. The Buckeyes open the season at home against Nebraska. Then they get several games in a row that include teams like Rutgers and Maryland and Michigan State. They're just not very good. And, I don't know if the Big Ten did that on purpose to help Ohio State's cause to try to get back to the championship form and to potentially the championship game come January. That potentially could happen for the Buckeyes. In other college news, the MAC is back. I'm sure my daughter Mo Money and the rest of the folks up there at University at Buffalo are the Go Bulls. Are excited for that. I'm excited that they're going to have their football team back playing. I haven't heard much. I checked their basketball program today up there at Buffalo because I have followed their team for many years since Mariah played up there, and they still don't have their basketball actual schedule out. Now I understand that the teams around the league potentially can start. I think they said November 25th, which happens to be my birthday. So if you're watching this podcast or listening to it, remember that Johnny Cleveland has his birthday on November 25th. So you guys can send me presents. All right. So the MAC is back. The Pac-12 is back as well. They've agreed to start. They're going to have a 7-game series out there. USC and UCLA and Oregon. Ohio State and Oregon were originally going to play this year too. So it'd be interesting to see if both Ohio State and Oregon play. They play well. Could they potentially get to that national champion game? Who knows what's going to happen in college football right now. But the Pac-12 is back. I'm excited to see that. The Mountain West is back. So I think everybody, I want to say most of the big schools and the larger conferences are all back now. They've all agreed to play in the fall still, and therefore they're not going to be doing the spring football like some had thought. And the MAC, the MAC lost a lot of money. They really relied on those big games when they played schools like Ohio State and Michigan in those early contests like Bowling Green and Kent State. They usually play some of those Big Ten schools, and they get a lot of money, like $1 or $2 million, just to go compete against those larger schools. So losing those games in the non-conference part of the schedule really did hurt the MAC. So I give the MAC credit for trying to get back and helping these athletes who have spent their entire life preparing to be these great athletes and doing their best. I was talking to my daughter Mariah earlier today about a player up where she used to go to school with up at Buffalo, who'd recently transferred. I noticed that she had transferred, and was a little bit surprised by that because she was foregoing her senior year up there, and found out where she was actually going, a different school in a different part of the country, to compete in her senior year. And her read a little short story about it, and her decision was based on wanting to go play basketball in Europe after she finishes college ball. So it's just been very interesting to see all of the players. It seems like in the last year, especially, and then of course with the pandemic going on, the number of players that are continually transferring from one college to the next. You just really wonder how this is all, going to settle out, because to me, in my opinion, just looking at it, as I have for the last 5 to 10 years, it just, the number of players that are transferring is just astronomical. I realize that we want to do what's best for our players, and we want to put players in the best position. But my conversation with my daughter Mariah, who's been part of the show before, she might disagree with this, but I have always talked about team play and loyalty to a group and a team. So I find it very hard to. I want these players to have a good season, and I want them to do their very best for whoever they play for. But this idea of wanting to just do things sometimes just for themselves, is okay. But then are they losing sight of the team play? And then then when they do that, then how much are they really competing when they're competing together? Are they competing together? Or are they just individuals just playing the game because they want to go play the game somewhere else, like Europe, or the pros, or so it's a topic we can talk about in another podcast, but it certainly drew my attention, especially in a position where you've gone through 3 years of college at one school, and then you forego your senior year. You have one more year, and you decide to go somewhere else because you want more playing time. So I've been a middle school, high school coach for years. So the topic of playing time and making things fair for everybody, it's a very hot topic amongst parents and coaches. So we'll come to that at another podcast, I'm sure, but it will always be there to discuss. It is good to see the high schools locally here playing. I know my alma mater, Worcester Generals, I think they're playing over at Mansfield tonight locally, and saw that they were winning early. I saw some of the people in the stands. Of course, many of the schools here in Ohio are still abiding by all the social distancing measures. The band and the cheerleaders are all trying to maintain their social distance. So that's good to see. But it's just good to see, high school football out there. Some more bigger games are going to be starting tomorrow. Teams like Alabama is going to be playing Missouri in college football. Here locally, it'll be good to have Ohio State back here in the Columbus area. Columbus just thrives on Ohio State. Everything is the Ohio State University. Everything in this region is kind of has Ohio State marked on it. Many of the medical centers, the Wexner Medical Center comes to mind. These are all kind of run through Ohio State, and it's a big part of this community. So it'll be very good to have Buckeye football back. All right, so we haven't talked about the Browns yet. Of course, the Browns are playing here on Sunday. They're playing the Washington football team, no longer the Redskins. They're playing, or we could also call them the Washington Buckeyes because they have Haskins playing Dwayne Haskins, the quarterback from the Buckeyes. I've talked about this a little bit on Wednesday's podcast. I do think that the offense for Washington is very weak and not very stable. They don't have a lot of good targets. Haskins, and watching some film earlier today, is just not. He throws with his arm. He doesn't set himself very well. So I do feel like people like players like Myles Garrett are going to be able to do some really good things against Haskins, against that offensive line of Washington. I do worry though about how the Browns' offensive line is going to adapt to the Washington Redskins, who have Chase Young and like 3 or 4 other first-round draft picks from several years past, playing on that front 5 of Washington. So I think it's going to be a very interesting game. I'll have my prediction on that in just a minute. But I'm going to give you some of my other predictions for some of my other games here in just a bit. But today is Friday, and so I was thinking about Friday favorites, and I played. If you were listening to the audio bit right now, you heard a song that goes back a ways, that when I was growing up as a kid and followed my beloved Browns. And during that time period, again in the 80s and especially the late 80s, early 90s, the Browns were just a very good team. They went to the AFC Championship several years, and were just beloved by the community. We still love those old teams as well. So my Friday favorites are going to be my top Cleveland Browns quarterbacks of all time. All right, you ready for this? Okay, so at number 5, one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time is who I've mentioned before as a Hall of Famer, is number 14. His number is retired. We talked about this the last podcast. Otto Graham. All right, number 5 is Otto Graham. Number 4 is who currently is the Browns quarterback. The great number 6. I'm wearing his shirt right now. Baker Mayfield, number 6. All right. Number 3 on that list of my favorite Browns quarterbacks of all time. I have his jersey. My cousin Billy out there in Kansas can verify this, because he's seen me wear this several times when I would go out with to the I was the local club president of the Oz chapter of the Browns backers out there in Wichita. I'd mentioned that before, and all those guys can attest to this too. But I would oftentimes wear my Brady Quinn jersey. Yes, Brady Quinn, one of my favorite quarterbacks when he was drafted out of Notre Dame by the Browns. I was totally like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the greatest. We started making those Subway commercials, and everybody thought, yes, we finally got our quarterback. And then we found out soon thereafter he wasn't that good. He did last longer than some of the other quarterbacks. Come to mind, somebody like Brandon Whedon or Colt McCoy actually lasted a little bit longer. But Brady Quinn actually lasted several seasons. He was injured a time or two, but Brady Quinn was just, one of those guys. When he first came out, we were all so excited. There was a game out there when I was living in Kansas. The Brownies went out to Denver and played at the new Miles High Stadium, and I sat out there in the end zone seats and watched Brady Quinn play with the Browns that year, and we lost that game, of course. Because we always lost in Denver. That game was special because my son Alec the Malik, he can attest to this too. He was a great fun moment. It was the first time we drove out together, just he and I, and we got a chance to stayed at a hotel, hung out there in Denver, had a great time prior to the game. Went to the game. He was like in 5th grade. And we were all excited, and we got there really early so we could take pictures of this. It really is a beautiful stadium. If you get a chance to go out to Denver, I hate John Elway. Okay, let's just get that out of the way. I've mentioned that many times, but John Elway is just ugh. Okay, But Denver Stadium is a really cool place. So we got there early, and people started coming into the stadium, and we get into our seats, and we're all getting ready to watch the game. And there was this group that showed up right behind us, and they were very excited, and they had probably been having a few too many drinks. And one of the fellas accidentally spilled his entire beer down the backside of Alec, and probably the front side too. And Alec got drenched in a shower of beer. And keep in mind, he's like fourth or fifth grade, and he handled it very, very well. So, Alec, if you're watching this or you're listening to it on the podcast, it was one of the finer moments. And I think he might have talked about this if we were on the podcast prior and when I had him on. But there was a nice, lovely lady that happened to be sitting next to him that took an interest in just chatting with him. And Alec found that to be very, very cool. And so even though he had the beer dropped on him, his attention went away from that, and because of the lovely lady that was sitting next to him. So thank you, whoever you were who was sitting next to Alec, but you made the whole ordeal of a beer dropping on him a lot better for him. Okay, so that's my Brady Quinn story. Back to my top 5 list. Number 2 on my favorite Browns quarterbacks. This goes back to when I started following the Brownies, and you can probably see a picture of him back here. I've got my little pencil. I'll draw a circle around him here. Number 17, Brian Sipe. Yes, the kid from San Diego. I think he went to San Diego State, and California kid, came all the way to Cleveland, and just brought just tremendous excitement to the Browns. Ozzie Newsome, Dave Logan, Reggie Rucker. They got to the AFC divisional game against the Oakland Raiders on that very cold day in January, and lost on a last-second red right 88 play. But that was the first time that I was really emotional and sad and upset about it. But Brian Sipe was so exciting. He was, just a great quarterback. Actually, I think second in most yards as a Cleveland Brown quarterback. I think like 24,000 yards. Okay, and number 1, you guys all probably know this. If you listen to the podcast at the beginning, you heard the song, Bernie. Bernie's still around. He's on another local. I was listening to 850 up there in Cleveland earlier today, and he is part of their programming for their to preview the Browns. And Bernie Kosar, what a great quarterback, just the best. Grew up is kind of he was everyone's idol. I've mentioned this many times, but just Bernie is the guy, and most folks who follow the Browns from past to the future love Bernie. So Bernie's my guy. Top 5 favorite quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. All right. I'm going to give you my picks right now for the upcoming Sunday games. We got the Lions playing the Cardinals. And the Cardinals are doing very well. Kyle Murray is just dynamite right now. He's a pistol. He's running all over the place. Getting better game by game. Listen to the local podcasts too. I've mentioned them, the Bruce Hooley, Chris Spielman, the We Tackle Life podcast. If you get a chance, listen to their podcast. They actually mentioned, and I had sent them a message about their podcast, and they were nice enough to share a little bit from that email. So I appreciate that. If these guys, Bruce Hooley or Spielman, ever listen to my podcast, if they listen to that, thank you so much for that shout out recently. But bring it up because Chris Spielman loves Kyle Murray. Just loves the guy. Just thinks he's a great football player, great quarterback, great instincts. And so I'm going to have to go with the Cardinals in this game. Lions are just, the Lions. They always are the Lions. Okay, the next game I got is the Cowboys and the Seahawks. Looking at this, I think Dak Prescott, we've talked about him already as quarterback for the Cowboys, but they're going out to Seattle, and I just, see that again. Seattle, Russell Wilson is just the best. I see Seattle winning that game. All right, Next game I got is the Bengals and the Eagles. Um, Carson Wentz is just not the guy, I don't think, in Philly. I think he's making a lot of mistakes. I think he's been not very accurate. And I see Joe Burrow continuing to get better. He had a really good game against the Browns that came up short, but Joe Burrow is probably going to be a very, very solid quarterback for many years. What they also thought that about Carson Wentz, so I'm not going to say Carson Wentz is done, but the Eagles are in trouble, and I could see Cincinnati pulling this off, and I see the Bengals winning this game in a slight upset in Philly. They've had some extra time off to prepare since they had that Thursday night game. All right, the next game on the docket are the Rams and the Bills. I got to go with the Bills. Mo Money, right? Right, Mo Money. You're listening. You're a big Bill fan. Been to many of those games. The Bills are really good. And I think the Rams are that's gonna be a fun game to watch. That game's a 1 o'clock game. It's too bad that game's not later in the day or like the Sunday night game because both the Rams and the Bills are playing really well. They usually do at the beginning of the year. The Rams are just pounding the ball. They've been averaging 35, 40 carries a game. Sean McVay is just a really good coach for the Rams. The Bills are just solid, both offensively and defensively. I see the Bills winning that game. They're playing that up in Buffalo. It's too bad it's not snowing yet. There aren't any fans up there in Buffalo yet, but the Browns will have fans at their game again, another 6,000 fans. It'd be nice if the state of Ohio would allow some more fans at the future Browns games, maybe going into October. I think that would be fantastic. By the way, the COVID numbers here in Ohio continue to be good. The last several days, the percentages have only been, I said, like between 2 and 3%. So that's always good. All right, the last game on two more games on my picks here, the Chiefs and the Ravens. All right, you got to know I'm going with the Chiefs. Okay, even though I say, I'm from Kansas, or, live there, and I know those friends and family know that, I'm a diehard Browns fan, but you also know that, Patrick Mahomes is the best. And Lamar Jackson is overrated. I'm going to tell you right now, Lamar Jackson, I know you guys don't like to hear that, but he's running around, and I think he's gotten better. But I think that the Chiefs, and I think Patrick Mahomes, and I think just all of what they have as a team is just better than Baltimore in the end. And maybe Baltimore wins it, but I'm picking the Chiefs in this game to win it. This is an early game in the season. These games matter, but they're going to matter a lot more at the end of the season. But I'm going to go with the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL right now, and he's only going to get stronger. So we'll see. All right, now into the Browns game. I'm going with the Browns, and we've talked about this again a little bit on Wednesday, the reasons why, but I definitely see the Browns winning this game. I don't think it's going to be pretty. No Browns game is pretty, right, folks? I mean, the stress level that we all go through on a Sunday afternoon between 1 and 4 o'clock is just awful. I mean, just if people could just videotape all of us true diehard fans between those hours and just monitor where we are in our emotions in our heads, it's got to be something astronomical and comical for most people, because if they're watching Browns fans, we can't take it. I mean, every Sunday it seems like, okay, we've got this advantage on this team, but somehow, going into this game for the Browns, I think, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb pound the ball. Each of them, give Chubb the ball 20, 25 times, give Kareem Hunt the ball, 10, 15 times, throw him out in the flat, get a few passes, going that way for Kareem Hunt. I think those things should happen. And Stefanski is a smart guy. By the way, if you get a chance to Google, he had a little video clip where he got microphoned before the game against Cincinnati, and it was fantastic. He has got very good sense of humor and a very good sense for the game. So I think it was a solid pick as a coach. We'll see. It's only the third game, but let's see what happens with the Browns. I'm picking them to win. I'm picking them to win this game. This final score is going to be 17-13. I think the Browns will get the lead early. I think Washington will come back. They could even potentially take the lead, maybe like 13-10, and the Browns will have to get like a score, like a touchdown, sometime midway through the third or early in the fourth quarter. And then at that point, both teams are going to maybe make a mistake or two. Browns defense will step up at the very end. Browns will get the ball maybe with, let's say, 4 or 5 minutes, and Chubb and Hunt will pound the ball, and they're going to win it. So I picked the Brownies to win 17-13. There you go. Go Browns. Woo, woo. Okay, so one last short story here. I'll be brief if I can. And, my stories are never brief, but I shared earlier about how Grant Man and I went golfing earlier today, and we had a great time. I hit the ball pretty well. Grant gets out there and he hits it too a little bit. He likes to putt, and give him an opportunity to do that. And but he just likes to ride along in the cart. And thankfully, he was with me recently. We were out golfing again, and a course that we go to quite a bit. And I've shown him in the past how to actually ride the cart. So like I'll go on the passenger side. He'll actually put his foot on the pedal and accelerate, and he'll move the steering wheel. He's 19 years old, okay, but he has autism, and so he's practicing with this cart how to drive and how to ride around. And so on this day, a few weeks ago, we were at this course, and they've been doing some reshuffling of some of the holes and redesign, and they've been putting new sod and different things down, and changing some of the bunkers. So on this day, we were there. It was kind of busy. There were several groups playing. And we kind of got stuck behind a group that I knew was going to be a while. And I knew kind of where the other holes were on the back side of the golf course. It's a 18-hole course. We were on the front 9. So I was going to dance around and go to the back 9. And in doing so, I started going through this path that led us that way. But I failed to realize that they had just started putting some newly put down sod around one of the greens, and I got too close to that area, and before I knew it, this knucklehead here who was driving the cart, I ended up kind of getting into this sod area. Well, the sod, it was very, it had been raining, and it was like mush, and it was like quicksand. And before I knew it, the cart started to kind of get stuck, and we got stuck. And my son Grant, who again has autism, I was starting to get pretty upset and pretty oh my gosh. Well, a couple good things here. There was no one around us and on that part of the course. There was no other human beings around, so it was just us. I quickly got out of the cart, and I couldn't push. I mean, it was lodged down in this sod. But I had Grant there, and I said, and Grant's been practicing how to get out of with his cart. So Grant, I said, Grant, get in the cart and put your hands on the wheel, and then push as hard as you can on the accelerator. So he did, like a car getting stuck in snow. I got in the back of this cart. Now I've got this bad knee. I've mentioned this before, and so I was already beat up with my knee, and I started pushing, and he started hitting the accelerator. And lo and behold, I'm pushing, and we're starting to make some progress. The whole time though, we're putting tread marks in deeper and deeper into the side. Well, he's frustrated. He's like, no. And I'm like, no, you got to keep doing it. We can't, because we were going to have to walk a half mile back to the golf club house. And that was going to be really hard with having everything that was going on at that time. It was pretty embarrassing too. So finally, he pushes on the accelerator again, and I'm pushing with all my might. And lo and behold, we got it pushed out. Well, as soon as we got it out of the side, he continued to move with the cart, and I had to get him to stop. He stopped about 2 feet short of the green. And all was well. No one on the course, there was no one around at that point. And so we quickly veered back off to where we had kind of been and continued playing the game of golf. So there you go. thanks to Grant, man. Grant saved my derriere on that day, and I have a lot to be thankful for. Grant has helped out greatly in many other situations, but that in particular is one of my favorites and one that I will not forget. And did know that that golf course, that those skid marks from the tire treads are still there. Might be a permanent mark of this golf course. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in a year or two. All right, folks. I hope you had a great evening. Let's see where are we at with the Indians here. I'm looking. They've got a reliever in for the Pirates right now. The last I checked, it was 2-1. We'll see where it's at. But I hope you all have a great weekend. And again, we're going to come back to you on Sunday evening. Sunday after the game, the Browns again play Washington at 1:00. Well, the post game show after the game, shortly thereafter, and it's the Dog post game show. So please stay tuned for that. Might have a few special guests. We're going to have those guests on maybe on Sunday. If we don't get them on Sunday, we're going to have them early in next week to discuss the Brownies and the Indians and their postseason plan. So again, I hope you go out and do some fun things with the family. It's going to be a beautiful weekend here in Ohio. I know it's going to get a little bit cooler and some rain later next week, but enjoy this wonderful weather. The trees here in Ohio are starting to change great colors. By the way, the Pirates are still winning. They're up 3-1. Does not look good for the Tribe tonight, but you can't win them all, right? All right, guys, have a great Friday evening. Get out there and, like I said, and do some great things. And we will talk to you again on Sunday after the Browns win, right? We will talk to you then. And go Brownies, all right? Take care. And remember to keep smiling. Take care, everybody. Thanks, guys, for watching. Appreciate your support and your loyalty to the Johnny Cleveland podcast. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend.